Welcome to the Simple Romantic. Though I may dream about travel to other places and life at another time, I take pleasure in where I am. Almost daily I walk my own neighborhood and local hills. I make music with others in chamber groups and in my own living room. I create my own story and my own unique culture in the here and now. One of the ideas that's emerged from keeping my online art journal over the past several months is of people sharing their own music. That's music that doesn't have to be note or technique perfect. Folks have been making music and sharing it in family and small community groups for thousands of years. But I often hear the idea that for a musical performance to be personally significant, it has to be honed to a certain level of proficiency and presented to a large audience. That sure is not the case for me. Though I admit I get a charge out of singing and playing at our department music recitals for maybe 60 people, or singing in Beethoven's Ninth for a crowd of 600 like I did last summer. One of my best musical experiences was singing and playing recently with my friend Marcia in her living room, with just the two of us. I also got a real kick out of performing on the piano for my neighbor and her little boy, and then sitting with him at the piano while he got his own feel for the keys. Of course, this idea doesn't apply only to my style of making music. It goes equally well with the bursts of inspiration that feed my art journal illustrations and short essays. So the theme for this podcast series, based around some of the ideas I find myself illustrating or writing about in my online art journal, is unpolished performances. Whether I'm reading a novel written during another era, perusing some modern or past time historian's take on events of another time, or listening to a history podcast like Dan Carlin's Hardcore History or the BBC History Magazine, I always see myself in that past time. If you read my art journal online, you'll know that I'm an inveterate time traveler. Whether I'm altering a photograph of an old wheelbarrow, incorporating a hike in Grand Canyon country into a collage, or checking out a path in the woods, I'm imagining where in the past those things or places can take me. Recently, I've been listening to the podcast series from the BBC Radio's History of the World in 100 Objects. The broadcasters in this show like to make the point that all of us regular people are making history every day. In this podcast, Folk, Foxes, and San Francisco, I'm going to share some of the history I made in the month of October 2010. First off, you'll hear my experiences learning about and performing music by the Hungarian Bela Bartok, who was both a composer of art music and a collector of traditional folk music in the modern era before World War II. Then I'm going to read a few of my art journal pieces from October. These are very short essays that were popular with the something over 100 a day readers that come to my art journal page at http://simpleromantic, that's all one word, .blogspot.com. So it's http://simpleromantic.blogspot.com. And there is no www in that. These essays include a multi-part series about biking in San Francisco called Citybound, and also a piece about heading up to a local open space preserve to harvest chestnuts. When it comes to unpolished performances, I get most of my chances by taking music classes at the local community colleges. My neighbor Yo-Yo, that's short for Josephine, helped me learn how to speak the words in Bela Bartok's Fox song. We studied this piece for the piano performance class I'm involved in at a local community college. I sang the song while others played. It's tempting when I'm singing in a language I don't know to try to fake it by just listening to the recording, and I had a recording of someone singing this piece in Hungarian, which I went through a few times. But that's never the same as learning the individual words and talking with a native speaker. This particular song is about a chicken farmer who's having problems with a visiting fox. Bartók is known as one of the granddaddies of modern music before the Second World War. He's famous for his atonal compositions. Atonal, as I bet you know, is music that is not based around a central tone or key. And a lot of Bartók's music uses a pentatonic scale, which of course is a 5-note scale, or a chromatic scale. And of course you also know that a chromatic scale is one that includes all 12 of the pitches, all the half steps, as opposed to the major or minor 8-pitch scale that combines lots of whole step changes with a few half steps. Bartók, who was a Hungarian like Yo-Yo, was both a composer of art music as well as a musicologist who was involved in studying the folk music traditions of Hungarian peasants, as well as those of the folk of neighboring countries, including Slovakia, Romania, the Balkans, Turkey, and even North Africa. He left Hungary shortly before World War II because he was opposed to the Nazi regime. Long before this, even before World War I, resentment toward what he and others felt to be the imposition of German culture, language, and music influenced his desire and the desire of other Hungarian nationalists to create music outside of the traditional Germanically influenced box. There are a lot of casual references in the book titled Bela Bartók Letters, and that's edited and annotated by a man named János Demeny, and that's Janosdemeny, and the A in János has an accent, and so does the second E in Demeny. And a lot of references in this book to Bartók's feelings about being pushed to conform to German standards in both music and culture. Yo-Yo, who left Hungary herself not long after World War II, told me her father knew Bartók and said he was a little grumpy. And it's clear from reading about Bartók that he was also a bit of an introvert and he wasn't everybody's friend. But his letters also show that he had a great sense of humor. And I'm going to read to you from one of the letters on page 65, where he was writing, and it looks like this letter was probably written in 1906. He writes, "Dear Aunt Irma, we are having some memorable days down here in Keretsur, and I would feel as if I were neglecting some sacred duty if I did not tell you all about it. Her ladyship, Countess Ella auf Abwohn und zu Hoyas, daughter of a VCPC, apparently a VCPC is a veritable confidential privy councillor, arrived here," and then it says in French, 4 days ago. "The barbarous Magyar tongue," and the Magyar is the Hungarian language, "the barbarous Magyar tongue has now been replaced by sonorous language bursting with Teuton energy, delighting all the educated Hungarians." He has a lot of attitude about people speaking in German in his letters. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it when his relatives write to him in German. Really bothers him. "All the V family have the most wonderful ways of pronouncing German, and the way they put the words together and make up expressions is very funny." Okay, I'm not going to try to read the German expressions because I won't say them right. "The Countess is as chilly as Franz Joseph Land at Christmas time. The very sight and sound of her makes one's blood run cold. During meals, English etiquette reigns supreme. But as I have a taste for dissonance, I intend to invade this scene of awful orderliness, wearing my summer shirt without collar or cuffs, and my oldest shoes, just to shock them." Papa Vexi's ideas of entertaining the noble-blooded Austrian guest is to involve her in heated argument. 5 times so far, he has proved to her that, as a matter of fact, Austria does not exist. Mrs. Vexy, of course, is in despair. At lunch, woe to any man who makes more noise when he's eating than the humming of a bee. It's just not done in England. The fox song I performed in a small recital at the local community college. One of my colleagues from the piano performance class played the song while I sang it. And I also played another Bartók piece called Dragon Dance. And this is considered an art piece of artwork. There's art music and then there's folk music. And Dragon Dance is considered art music, but at the same time it was influenced by Bela Bartók's work collecting Hungarian and ethnic minority folk songs. Bartók has a lot of work that brings up animal images in my mind when I hear them. Some of them have references to animals in their titles, and others just make me think of animals, maybe the movement of animals when I hear them. In addition to singing the fox song with Yoko, who played for me, I played Dragon Dance, and as somebody who reads Harry Potter over and over, is it okay for an adult to admit that she reads Harry Potter like a kid does, has favorite passages? Well, to me, that's the dragon that Harry, Hermione, and Ron rescued, and who also rescued them. And in that song, I can hear that dragon thrashing about in the caverns underneath Gringotts. And then I hear it flying free above the open lands of Britain. And I can also hear the three of them jumping off the dragon's back into the lake when the song comes to an end.